The massive ship hung in space like a floating city. Its golden walls stretched for miles in every direction. Ambassador Zekthara stood at the viewing deck, watching the small human vessel approach. The ship was barely the size of a cargo container compared to the Galactic Council's flagship. Zekthara had done this 847 times before. Every species followed the same pattern. They arrived nervous and excited. They listened to the Council's generous offer. They accepted gratefully. Then they became productive members of galactic society. The human ship looked different, though. Most species built their vessels to impress. They wanted to show their best technology and art. The human ship was simple and gray. The only decoration was a name painted on the side, Defiance. Strange choice of name, muttered Counselor Vethi, standing beside Zekthara. Most species choose names like Hope or Unity for first contact missions. Zekthara nodded but said nothing. He had read the files on humanity. They were a young species, barely reaching beyond their home solar system. They had no faster-than-light travel. Their weapons were primitive chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Their homeworld was divided into competing nations that still fought wars. By every measure, humans were exactly what the Council expected from a Tier 7 species. The lowest category. They would need guidance, protection, and careful management. The Council had refined this process over 50,000 years. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. The human delegation walked out in a neat line. Their leader was a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She wore a simple dark blue uniform with small metal pins on her chest. Behind her came 6 others, some in military uniforms, others in civilian clothes. High Arbitrator Quindal floated forward to greet them. His crystalline body reflected the lights of the docking bay like a living prism. Welcome, representatives of humanity. I am Quindal of the Eternal Crystal Empire. We are honored to begin this historic dialogue. The human woman stepped forward and bowed slightly. I am Ambassador Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth government. Thank you for this opportunity. Zekthara noted her calm tone. Most species were overwhelmed by their first sight of the Council ship. Humans seemed to take it in stride. The delegation was led through the ship's corridors, past the gardens where plants from 1,000 worlds grew together, past the museum displaying art from every member civilization, past the viewing chambers where space itself seemed to bend and twist under the ship's reality generators. The humans looked at everything with interest, but showed no signs of being intimidated. One of them, a woman with gray hair, was taking notes on a small device. A man in military uniform was clearly counting guard positions and exit routes. They entered the Grand Assembly Chamber. The room was enormous, with floating platforms arranged in concentric circles. Representatives from dozens of species were present. The Veltai Empire with their 4 arms and purple skin, the gas-breathing Netheri in their environmental suits, the machine intelligences of the Construct Alliance, with their metal bodies and glowing eyes. At the center was the arbitration platform where the humans would hear the Council's terms. High Arbitrator Quindal began the presentation. Honored humans, today marks your species' entry into the galactic community. For 50 millennia, the Council has guided young civilizations toward prosperity and peace. A holographic display showed the galaxy. Green dots marked Council territories, thousands upon thousands of star systems. Red dots showed the handful of hostile regions where dangerous species lurked. The galaxy is vast but dangerous, Quindal continued. Alone, young species face extinction from raiders, environmental disasters, or their own primitive conflicts. Under Council protection, they thrive. More holograms showed the benefits. Advanced medical technology extending lifespans to centuries, clean energy systems, faster-than-light communication, protection fleets ensuring safe borders. The terms are generous, said Counselor Vethi, taking over the presentation. Humanity will be classified as Tier 7, reflecting your current development level. You will contribute 40% of your planetary resources to the galactic economy. In return, you receive full Council protection and technological guidance. The hologram showed Earth surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships. Population growth will be regulated to ensure sustainable development, Vethi added. Council advisors will help your government's transition to more efficient systems. This process typically takes 2 to 3 generations. Zekthara watched the human faces. Usually by this point, species were nodding eagerly. Humans showed no emotion at all. Your military forces will be integrated into Council defense units. Admiral Corthan spoke next. His reptilian features and scarred hide marked him as a veteran of many campaigns. Human soldiers show promising aggression levels. With proper training and equipment, they could serve the Council well. Education systems will be standardized, added Director Thamos, the Council's chief psychologist. Human children will learn galactic languages, proper social behaviors, and useful skills. We will help eliminate the primitive tribal thinking that causes your current conflicts. The presentation concluded with images of other species who had joined the Council, happy families living in crystal cities, scientists working alongside alien colleagues, children playing together regardless of their species. These terms have been accepted by every species we have encountered, High Arbitrator Quindal said. They represent the wisdom of ages and guarantee your species' survival and prosperity. Ambassador Chen stood up slowly. The chamber fell silent. This was the moment every species said yes, the moment they gratefully accepted their place in galactic civilization. Thank you for the detailed presentation, Chen said in a clear voice. We have listened carefully to your generous offer. She paused for a moment, looking around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces. We decline. The words echoed in the vast chamber. For several seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The translator systems recycled the words multiple times, as if checking for errors. High Arbitrator Quindal's crystalline form flickered with confusion. I apologize, Ambassador Chen. There may be a translation error. Could you repeat your response? We decline your offer, Chen said again, her voice steady. Humanity respectfully refuses these terms. The chamber erupted. Alien voices rose in a dozen languages. Counselor Vethi was frantically checking his translator. Admiral Corthan was staring at the humans as if they had grown extra heads. Zekathara felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Genuine surprise. In all his years of first contact negotiations, no species had ever refused the Council's terms. The very concept was unthinkable. High Arbitrator Quindal raised one of his crystal appendages for silence. Ambassador Chen, I fear you misunderstand the situation. These are not negotiations. This is how new species join the galactic community. The process has worked successfully for 50,000 years. Chen nodded politely. We understand the process, Arbitrator. We simply cannot accept these terms. Cannot? Counselor Vethi stepped forward. Perhaps you need time to consider the alternatives. Outside Council protection, your species faces certain extinction. Raiders, natural disasters, resource depletion. 100 threats could destroy Earth within decades. We appreciate your concerns, said the gray-haired woman behind Chen. I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief historian. Humanity has faced extinction threats before. We survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and our own nuclear weapons. We prefer to face uncertain freedom rather than certain servitude. The word servitude hit the chamber like a physical blow. Several alien representatives made sounds of outrage. Servitude? Admiral Corthan's voice was dangerously low. The Council offers guidance, protection, prosperity. How dare you call it servitude? Ambassador Chen stepped forward again. 40% of our resources. Population controls. Government advisors. Military integration. Educational standardization. In human terms, these are the demands of a conquering empire, not a protective alliance. High Arbitrator Quindal's crystal form pulsed with changing colors. You speak of concepts that have no place in modern galactic civilization. The Council system ensures peace and prosperity for all except those who value self-determination, Chen replied calmly. The chamber fell silent again. Zekthara realized that something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in galactic history, a species was choosing an uncertain future over guaranteed survival. And somehow, the humans did not seem afraid. The emergency session lasted 6 hours. Council members from across the galaxy joined by hologram, their confusion visible despite the vast differences between species. Zekthara had seen Arbitrator Quindal remain calm through species extinctions, fleet battles, and political upheavals. Now the ancient crystal being flickered with nervous energy. Run the translation protocols again, Quindal ordered for the 5th time. Director Thamos checked his readings. All systems confirm accuracy, Arbitrator. The humans said exactly what we heard. They refuse our terms. Admiral Corthan paced the platform, his claws clicking against the metal floor. This makes no sense. They are a primitive species facing obvious destruction. Why would they choose death over protection? Perhaps they do not understand the consequences, suggested Counselor Vethi. Their neural patterns may process risk differently than other species. Meanwhile, the human delegation waited in the guest quarters. Ambassador Chen sat calmly at the conference table, reviewing documents on her portable device. General Marcus Webb studied floor plans of the council ship. Dr. Vasquez read from what appeared to be an old paper book. The other humans showed no signs of stress. No nervous gestures, no worried conversations. They acted as if refusing the Galactic superpower's demands was perfectly normal. 3 hours into the emergency session, High Arbitrator Quindal called for the humans to return. The chamber was fuller now, with additional council members joining remotely. The holographic platforms glowed with beings from across the galaxy. Ambassador Chen, Quindal began, his crystal form now a steady blue color. We have reconsidered your concerns. Perhaps we were unclear about the benefits of council membership. A new holographic display showed paradise worlds under council protection. Cities of crystal and light, species that had evolved beyond physical form, existing as pure energy, technologies that could reshape matter at the atomic level. These achievements await humanity, Quindal said, but only through patient guidance and careful development. Your species is young. You lack the wisdom to navigate galactic politics safely. Chen listened politely, then stood. Arbitrator, we appreciate these examples of council achievements. However, our position remains unchanged. Counselor Vethi stepped forward. Then let us address specific concerns. Perhaps the 40% resource contribution seems excessive. We could reduce it to 35% for the first century. Our concern is not the percentage, Chen replied. It is the principle of surrendering our autonomy. Autonomy? Admiral Corthon laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Your species has never had true autonomy. You are divided into competing nations. You fight wars over territory and resources. You damage your own planet's environment. Where is the autonomy in that chaos? General Webb stood up beside Chen. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady eyes. Admiral, human history includes many failures, but it also includes our choice to make those failures. We prefer our own mistakes to someone else's wisdom. The chamber fell silent again. The concept seemed to puzzle every alien present. Director Thamos accessed his cultural databases. General Webb, this preference for self-determination over guided development is highly unusual. Our psychological profiles suggest it should be impossible. Dr. Vasquez opened her old book. Director, may I share some human history? Please, Quindal said, his curiosity overriding protocol. 300 years ago, human nations controlled other human populations as colonies, Dr. Vasquez began. The controlling nations offered protection, trade benefits, and technological advancement. In return, they took resources and political control. She turned a page in her ancient book. Every colonial power claimed to be helping the people they controlled. They built roads, schools, and hospitals. They ended local conflicts and established trade networks. By many measures, they provided real benefits. The aliens listened with growing interest. Yet every colonized population eventually fought for independence, she continued. They chose uncertain freedom over comfortable servitude, even when independence meant poverty, conflict, and hardship. Admiral Corthon shook his massive head. Those were conflicts between members of the same species. This is different. We offer genuine improvement. The colonial powers said the same thing, Dr. Vasquez replied calmly. They genuinely believed they were helping. Some of their intentions were honest, but good intentions do not justify taking away choice. Counselor Vethi's forearms gestured in confusion, but choice without wisdom leads to disaster. Young species make terrible decisions. They destroy themselves with war, pollution, or resource depletion. Some do, Chen acknowledged. Others learn from their mistakes and grow stronger. The right to make bad choices is part of freedom, even if those choices lead to extinction, asked Representative Kylanth of the Harmony Worlds. Even then, Chen said firmly. The chamber erupted again. Alien voices rose in shock and disbelief. Several representatives were consulting their cultural databases, trying to find precedent for such thinking. High Arbitrator Quindal called for order. Ambassador Chen, I must ask directly, are you saying humanity would rather die than accept council guidance? Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of dozens of alien species. We would rather live free than exist as subjects. But freedom is an illusion, Director Thamos protested. All species are subject to physical laws, environmental constraints, and social necessities. The Council simply organizes these constraints efficiently. General Webb stepped forward. Director, there is a difference between natural constraints and artificial ones. We accept that gravity pulls us down. We do not accept that other beings should control our choices. Even when those beings are wiser and more experienced? Quindal asked. Especially then, Webb replied. Power corrupts wisdom. No being or institution should have absolute authority over others. Admiral Corthon's patience finally broke. This is madness. You are one primitive species facing the combined might of galactic civilization. You have no faster-than-light travel, no energy weapons, no defensive shields. How do you imagine you could survive alone? The chamber fell silent, waiting for the human response. Chen smiled for the first time since arriving. Admiral, you assume survival requires your protection. Humanity survived for millions of years before meeting you. We may die trying to remain free, but we will not live as pets. Pets? The word clearly offended several council members. Protected beings with no real choices, Dr. Vasquez clarified. Comfortable, safe, and ultimately meaningless existences. Representative Silara of the collective mind spoke for the first time. Her mechanical voice carried electronic overtones. Humans, you speak of meaning as if it has objective value. What meaning exists in extinction? The meaning of having tried, Chen answered simply. Director Thamos was furiously taking notes. This conversation challenges fundamental assumptions about rational behavior. No species in our databases prioritizes abstract concepts over survival. Perhaps, suggested Dr. Vasquez, that is why the galaxy has remained static for 50,000 years. The accusation hit like a physical blow. Council members stared at the small human woman who had just criticized their entire civilization. Static? Councillor Vethi's voice carried outrage. The Council has brought peace to thousands of species. We have eliminated war, poverty, and suffering across vast regions of space. You have eliminated conflict by eliminating choice, Dr. Vasquez replied. Peace without freedom is not peace. It is just successful oppression. High Arbitrator Quindal's crystal form began cycling through rapid color changes. These are dangerous ideas, Dr. Vasquez. Such thinking could destabilize galactic civilization. Only, if galactic civilization cannot withstand the idea that beings should control their own destinies, she replied. Admiral Corthon took a step forward, his massive frame intimidating. Perhaps humanity needs time to consider the consequences of defying the Council. The galaxy is dangerous, as you will discover. General Webb did not back down from the alien admiral's approach. We understand the risks. We also understand that some things are worth dying for. Such as? Corthon challenged. The right to succeed or fail by our own choices, Webb answered. The chance to grow into whatever we might become without someone else deciding our limits. Councillor Vethi tried a different approach. But consider your people's welfare. Under Council guidance, human children would never know war, hunger, or disease. How can you deny them that future? Chen's expression grew serious. Because a future chosen by others is not truly our future, it is theirs imposed upon us. The chamber fell into troubled silence. For the first time in their recorded history, the Galactic Council faced a species that simply could not be convinced. Every argument, every benefit, every threat met the same calm refusal. High Arbitrator Quindal finally spoke. We will adjourn for now. The Council must discuss this unprecedented situation. As the aliens filed out, Zekthara lingered. He approached the human delegation with genuine curiosity. Ambassador Chen, he said quietly, in all my centuries of service, I have never encountered anything like this. May I ask one question? Of course, Chen replied. Do you truly believe humanity can survive without Council protection? Chen considered the question carefully. The closed session lasted 18 hours. Council members who had not spoken to each other in centuries were suddenly debating basic assumptions about civilization itself. Zekthara watched species that had been allies for millennia disagree about fundamental principles. Admiral Corthon stood before the military display, his scarred features grim in the blue light. The solution is simple. Make an example of them. Other species are watching this negotiation. If humans can refuse Council terms, others might try the same. Representative Silara's mechanical form clicked disapprovingly. Violence should be the last option. The humans are one species on one planet. They pose no military threat. They pose an ideological threat, Corthan replied. Ideas are more dangerous than weapons. The idea that species can refuse council authority could spread. High Arbitrator Quindal floated between the arguing factions. His crystal body had remained a troubled orange color for hours. Before we discuss consequences, we must understand what we face. Director Thamos, what do your psychological profiles tell us? The council's chief psychologist activated his presentation. Brain scans appeared in the air, showing neural patterns from thousands of species. Every sapient being follows predictable patterns. When faced with superior force, they submit. When offered protection, they accept. When threatened with extinction, they choose survival over everything else. He highlighted the human brain scans. Humans show all the normal patterns: fear, uncertainty, recognition of danger, but they also show something unprecedented: neural activity that prioritizes abstract concepts over physical survival. Counselor Vethi studied the readings with his 4 eyes. Is it a mental disorder? Some form of species-wide madness? No, Thamos replied slowly. It appears to be normal human brain function. Their entire species has evolved to sometimes value ideas more than life itself. The chamber fell quiet as the implication sank in. That is impossible, declared Representative Morgeth of the Eternal Dynasties. Evolution does not produce suicidal traits. Unless, suggested Dr. Xylan of the Research Collective, those traits provided survival advantages in specific environments. Zekthara accessed his cultural files on humanity. Their homeworld is harsh compared to most inhabited planets. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, limited resources. Perhaps they evolved to take risks that other species would avoid. More than that, added Director Thamos, human history shows a pattern of individuals sacrificing themselves for group survival. They appear to have evolved the ability to choose death for abstract principles because those principles sometimes saved their communities. Admiral Corthan dismissed the discussion with a wave of his massive hand. Evolutionary psychology is irrelevant. They are one species defying the established order. The response is clear. He activated the military display. It showed the Sol system surrounded by council ships. 200 vessels of various classes, from scout ships to battle cruisers. The 47th Fleet is in position, Corthan continued. Humanity has no space-based defenses worthy of the name. Their largest weapons are chemical rockets carrying nuclear warheads, primitive and ineffective against shielded vessels. Wait, interrupted Dr. Xylan. What has humanity been doing during the 3 months since first contact? The question caught everyone off guard. Admiral Corthan checked his intelligence reports. Standard preparation activities. Diplomatic consultations, resource surveys, communication network expansion. Show me the detailed scans, Dr. Xylan demanded. The holographic display shifted to show Earth's solar system in detail. At first glance, everything looked normal. Earth with its single moon, the gas giants in their distant orbits, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Dr. Xylan enhanced the resolution. Look closer at the asteroid belt. The image sharpened, revealing details that made several council members gasp. The asteroids were moving in unnatural patterns, structured formations with regular spacing. They have been mining, Corthan said slowly, but not for resources. General Webb's voice came from behind them. For weapons, the council spun around. The human delegation had entered the chamber without permission or announcement. Ambassador Chen walked calmly to the center of the room while General Webb approached the military display. How did you get in here? Admiral Corthan demanded. This is a closed session. Your security is designed to keep out known threats, Chen replied. Humans are not in your databases yet. She gestured to General Webb. Would you like to explain what we have been building, General? Webb touched the display controls with surprising familiarity. The asteroid belt image expanded, showing individual rocks now clearly visible as artificial constructs. Kinetic bombardment platforms, he said simply. We took asteroids ranging from 10 meters to 10 kilometers in diameter and installed guidance systems and propulsion units. The aliens stared at the display in growing horror. You weaponized an entire asteroid belt? Counselor Vethi's voice was barely a whisper. Just the accessible portions, Webb replied casually. About 40,000 individual projectiles. each one capable of accelerating to significant fractions of light speed. Admiral Corthan was frantically running calculations. Impossible. You lack the technology for such precise control systems. Webb smiled grimly. We lack faster-than-light travel. We never lacked precision engineering. Every human smartphone contains computing power that would have been impossible a century ago. Scaling that up to asteroid guidance systems was just a matter of resources. Dr. Xylan was studying the formations with scientific fascination. The mathematics are elegant. You have turned an entire star system into a defensive grid. More than defensive, Webb corrected. Each asteroid can be targeted at any point within a 50 light-year radius. We may not have faster-than-light travel, but we do not need it for kinetic weapons. The implications were staggering. Rocks accelerated to relativistic speeds became devastating weapons that could crack planets. High Arbitrator Quindal's crystal form flickered between colors rapidly. You are threatening galactic civilization with primitive weapons. We are not threatening anyone, Ambassador Chen said calmly. We are simply demonstrating that we can defend ourselves. Admiral Corthan studied the tactical display with professional interest. Your asteroid field could damage our fleet significantly, but you would still lose. 200 council ships with energy weapons and defensive shields against throwing rocks. 40,000 guided rocks moving at 20% of light speed, Webb corrected. Your shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and small debris. They were never intended to stop mountain-sized projectiles with that much kinetic energy. Besides, added Dr. Vasquez, who had been quietly observing, you are thinking like a traditional military force. Humans do not fight traditionally. She approached the display and highlighted several asteroids. These are not weapons. They are industrial fabrication centers. We have been building more than guidance systems. The enhanced scans showed the asteroids were hollow, containing manufacturing facilities. Self-replicating production systems, Webb explained. Every day we add more weapons to the grid. More defensive platforms, more targeting systems. And if you destroy Earth? Dr. Vasquez asked. The automated systems will continue operating. Every asteroid belt in human space will become a weapon factory. Director Thamos was frantically updating his psychological profiles. This level of preparation suggests they expected to fight from the beginning. We hoped for peace, Chen admitted. But we prepared for war. Human history teaches us that powerful neighbors rarely remain peaceful forever. Counselor Vethi was studying the human faces. You show no fear. Even facing our overwhelming fleet, you remain calm. Fear is not useful here, Chen replied. We made our choice before we came. The only question now is whether the Council will respect that choice or attempt to force compliance. Admiral Corthan was running attack simulations on his tactical computer. The results were not encouraging. Even with overwhelming technological superiority, the Council fleet would suffer unprecedented casualties. You could destroy perhaps 60% of our ships before falling, he admitted grudgingly. No species has ever forced such losses on a Council fleet. No species has ever had 3 months to prepare while you debated, Webb pointed out. Representative Silara's mechanical voice carried new respect. Your defensive preparations are impressive, but you remain isolated in one star system. The Council controls thousands of systems and millions of ships. Dr. Vasquez opened her old book again. Representative Silara, may I read you something? The machine intelligence nodded. These words were written by a human leader facing impossible odds. We shall defend our island home, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall never surrender. She closed the book. That leader's nation faced an enemy with superior numbers, better equipment, and more resources. They could have negotiated surrender and saved lives. What happened? Asked Representative Morgeth. They fought, Dr. Vasquez said simply. And they won. Not because they were stronger, but because they were willing to pay any price for freedom. The chamber fell silent again. The aliens were beginning to understand that humanity was not bluffing. The Galactic Council had not experienced internal conflict for over 10,000 years. Now the Great Assembly Chamber echoed with raised voices as species that had cooperated for millennia found themselves on opposite sides of an unprecedented debate. Admiral Corthan stood before the military faction, his scarred features set in grim determination. The humans must be destroyed, not for their weapons, but for their ideas. They have planted a seed that will grow into galaxy-wide rebellion. Supporting him were the older empires, the eternal dynasties whose crystal cities had stood unchanged for 50,000 years. The Veltai Empire, with their rigid caste systems, the Machine Collective, where individual thought had been eliminated in favor of perfect order. Order requires hierarchy, declared Representative Morgeth. If every species can refuse council authority, we will have chaos. On the other side of the chamber, a smaller but growing group gathered around Dr. Silon of the Research Collective. Her species had joined the council only 3,000 years ago, and they remembered what independence had felt like. Perhaps chaos is preferable to stagnation, she said quietly. When did we stop growing? When did we stop dreaming of something better? Representative Silara's mechanical form clicked thoughtfully. The humans raise valid questions. Why must advancement require submission? Could we not achieve cooperation through partnership instead of dominance? The debate had been raging for 6 hours when a junior aide rushed into the chamber. The young Yathara moved with obvious urgency as she approached High Arbitrator Quindal. Arbitrator, we have a priority message from the Yathara home system, she whispered. Quindal's crystal form flickered with annoyance. Not now. We are in closed session. Sir, it concerns the human situation. Premier Vithara requests immediate private consultation. The arbitrator hesitated, then nodded. Very well. Recess for 1 hour. As the council members dispersed to their private chambers, Zekthara noticed something troubling. Small groups of representatives were forming, clustering by species and whispering urgently. The unity that had defined the council for millennia was fracturing. In the human quarters, Ambassador Chen sat reviewing reports from Earth. The communication delays were significant without faster-than-light transmission, but the updates painted a clear picture. Humanity was transforming itself into a fortress. General Webb studied defensive schematics while Dr. Vasquez read from her collection of historical texts. The other team members worked quietly on various projects. Ambassador, came a voice from the door. Chen looked up to see a figure in an environmental suit. The distinctive design marked it as Yathara technology. I am Sub-Premier Lithara, the figure said through her suit's speakers. I represent the Yathara Council of Worlds. May I speak with you privately? Chen gestured to a chair. Of course, please sit. The Yathara removed her helmet, revealing features that resembled a cross between human and reptilian characteristics. Her large eyes held intelligence and something else. Hope. 500 years ago, my people joined the council under the standard terms. Lithara began. Tier 7 status, resource contributions, guided development. We accepted because we believed it was our only choice. She paused, gathering courage. Your refusal has sparked something among my people. Debates in our council chambers. Questions we had forgotten how to ask. Chen listened carefully. What kind of questions? Why do we need council oversight for our colonial expansion? Why must our children learn council standard rather than traditional Yathara philosophy? Why do our greatest minds spend their lives implementing others' discoveries instead of making their own? The implications were staggering. If the Yathara were questioning their status, other species might be doing the same. How many worlds share these concerns? Chen asked. More than the council knows, Lithara admitted. The Ketharan unity has been quietly building an industrial base beyond council oversight. The nomadic clans have been developing navigation technology that does not rely on council beacons. The New Harmony Collective has been experimenting with governance systems that prioritize individual choice. She leaned forward intensely. We have been waiting for someone to show us that refusal is possible. Chen felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Humanity was no longer fighting just for their own freedom. They had become a symbol for every species that had forgotten what independence meant. What do you want from us? Chen asked. Win, Lithara said simply. Show the galaxy that species can stand up to the council and survive. Give us proof that there is an alternative. Back in the main chamber, High Arbitrator Quindal was receiving disturbing reports from across the galaxy. Monitoring stations detected unusual activity in 17 different star systems. Resource shipments were being delayed. Communications between member worlds were increasing dramatically. Admiral Corthan studied the intelligence reports with growing alarm. It is starting. The humans have been here less than a week, and already we see signs of unrest. Director Thamos was analyzing psychological profiles from 12 different species. Elevated stress indicators, increased questioning of authority, reduced compliance with routine directives. The human example is having a measurable effect. Then we must act quickly, Corthan declared. Destroy the humans before their rebellion spreads further. Dr. Xylin stood up abruptly. Destroy them for asking questions? When did the Council become so afraid of ideas that we resort to genocide? When those ideas threaten galactic stability, Representative Morgeth replied coldly. Stability built on oppression is not worth preserving, she shot back. The argument was interrupted by an urgent alert. Communication screens around the chamber lit up with incoming messages. Arbitrator, called the communications officer. We are receiving formal diplomatic requests from 43 member species. They are requesting renegotiation of their council membership terms. The chamber fell silent. 43 species out of nearly 1,000 was not a majority, but it represented billions of beings across hundreds of star systems. Admiral Corthan's voice was deadly quiet. It has begun. High Arbitrator Quindal's crystal form cycled through rapid color changes. How long before this spreads to other species? At current rates, Director Thamos calculated, we could see formal challenges from over 300 species within 6 months. The implications were terrifying. 300 species demanding equal treatment would paralyze the Council. The administrative systems were designed around hierarchy and control, not negotiation and partnership. Counselor Vethi was studying the list of requesting species. Many of these are Tier 5 and Tier 6 civilizations. They have significant military and industrial capabilities. Enough to challenge Council authority if they act together, Admiral Corthan admitted grimly. Representative Sil Ara's mechanical voice cut through the tension. Perhaps we should consider why so many species are suddenly dissatisfied with arrangements they accepted for centuries. Because the humans have infected them with dangerous ideas, Morgeth declared. Or because the humans have reminded them of ideas they never truly abandoned, Dr. Saley encountered. The debate was interrupted again when Ambassador Chen and her delegation entered the chamber. This time, they were accompanied by Sub-Premier Lithara and representatives from 6 other species. Arbitrator, Chen announced, we come with a formal proposal. Quindal's crystal form had settled into a deep red color. We are listening. Chen gestured to her new allies. Representatives from 7 species have joined together to propose a new model for galactic cooperation. Not hierarchy, but partnership. Not submission to authority, but voluntary cooperation between equals. She activated a small device that projected a holographic document. We call it the Sovereign Alliance Charter. The chamber erupted in shocked voices as the aliens read the proposed terms. Equal voting rights for all members. Voluntary resource sharing based on mutual benefit. No species could control another's internal governance. Military cooperation only by choice, never by compulsion. Admiral Corthan was the first to respond. This would destroy everything the Council has built. It would transform it into something better, Chen replied calmly. Representative Morgeth's crystalline features showed outrage. You propose to tear down 50,000 years of civilization for an untested experiment, Doctor? Vasquez stepped forward. Representative Morgeth, civilization that cannot adapt to new ideas is not civilization. It is just a very old mistake. The human historian opened her ancient book. Human history is filled with systems that seemed permanent until someone imagined something better. Slavery seemed natural until people chose to end it. Monarchy seemed inevitable until people created democracy. Empires seemed eternal until people chose independence. And how many died in those transitions? Morgeth demanded. Fewer than died, maintaining systems that had outlived their purpose. Doctor, Vasquez replied without hesitation. High Arbitrator Quindal floated to the center of the chamber. Even if we considered such radical changes, How would they be implemented? The Council governs thousands of species across millions of worlds. The administrative challenges alone would be enormous. Sub-Premier Lith Era stepped forward. Arbitrator, the Yith Ara have developed transition protocols. Other species have been preparing similar plans. The vote took 3 days. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Council could not reach consensus. Species that had agreed on everything for millennia found themselves divided on fundamental questions about civilization itself. Zekthara watched the proceedings from the observation deck, documenting the end of an era. Below him, the Great Assembly Chamber hosted debates that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. Admiral Corthan led the military faction with passionate arguments about security and order. Without hierarchy, we will have chaos. Without central authority, member species will return to the wars and conflicts that plagued them before Council protection. Dr. Zaylan countered with equally passionate arguments about growth and freedom. With hierarchy, we have stagnation. With central authority, member species cannot reach their full potential because someone else always decides their limits. The humans sat quietly through most of the debate. They had made their proposal and answered questions, but they refused to argue or persuade. Ambassador Chen explained their position simply. We have stated our terms. Each species must decide for themselves what kind of galaxy they want to live in. On the second day, the votes began coming in. The results split the Council almost exactly in half. Ancient empires voted to maintain the status quo. Younger civilizations voted for change. Species that had joined recently supported the Sovereign Alliance. Species that had been members for millennia opposed it. The deadlock lasted until High Arbitrator Quindal made an unprecedented announcement. The Council will offer humanity a new classification, he said, his crystal form pulsing with nervous energy. Sovereign Alliance status. Full equality in all matters. No resource requirements. No population controls.
No governmental oversight. The chamber fell silent.
It was everything humanity had demanded. Admiral Corthan stared at the arbitrator in shock. You are giving them exactly what they asked for? We are preventing a galactic war, Quindal replied. Ambassador Chen stood slowly. For the first time since arriving, she looked genuinely surprised. Arbitrator, we appreciate this offer. However, we cannot accept it immediately. The silence deepened. Even the humans' allies looked confused. Cannot accept? Counselor Vethi's forearms gestured in bewilderment. These are the exact terms you demanded. Chen nodded. They are. But humanity cannot make decisions of this magnitude without consulting our people. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward to explain. The Council decides for its member species. Humanity cannot do the same. Our government exists only through the consent of the governed. Director Thamos was frantically checking his cultural databases. You mean you must return to Earth and hold a referendum? Yes, Chen confirmed. Every human citizen has the right to vote on treaties that affect our future. The concept was so alien that several council members began consulting their translation systems, convinced they had misunderstood. Representative Silara's mechanical voice carried genuine curiosity. What if your people vote to reject the offer? Then we reject it, General Webb said simply. Even if rejection means war? Admiral Corthan demanded. Even then, Webb confirmed. Leaders who make decisions without popular consent are not leaders. They are dictators. Sub-Premier Lithara leaned forward with intense interest. And if your people vote to accept? Then we will ask you to extend similar offers to any other species that request them, Chen replied. The implications hit the chamber like a shockwave. Humanity was not just demanding freedom for themselves. They wanted to establish the principle that any species could demand equal treatment. Impossible, Representative Morgeth declared. If every species can renegotiate their membership terms, the council system will collapse. Dr. Vasquez smiled. Representative Morgeth, systems that collapse when questioned were never as strong as they appeared. High Arbitrator Quindal's crystal form flickered rapidly. This referendum of yours, how long will it take? 3 months, Chen replied. Time for full debate, regional discussions, and planetary voting. And during those 3 months, Admiral Corthan asked suspiciously. We continue building our defenses, General Webb answered honestly. Until we have a final agreement, we must assume we may need to fight. The human delegation departed the next day, leaving the council in chaos. Reports of unrest continued arriving from across the galaxy. The Ketharan Unity formally declared independence from council oversight. The nomadic clans stopped attending council sessions entirely. 17 different species submitted formal requests to renegotiate their membership terms. Zekthara spent the next 3 months documenting the transformation of galactic civilization. It was the most significant period in his species' recorded history. The military faction prepared for war. Admiral Corthan assembled the largest fleet in council history, over 1,000 ships from 40 different species. If humanity voted to maintain their defiance, they would face overwhelming force. The progressive faction prepared for peace. Dr. Zaylan worked with allied species to develop new, governmental structures based on voluntary cooperation, rather than imposed hierarchy. They called it the Galactic Partnership Protocol. Meanwhile, humanity's referendum proceeded with painful transparency. Every debate was broadcast across Earth and to the asteroid habitats. Citizens argued passionately about whether to risk extinction for freedom or accept safety through submission. The council monitored every transmission, fascinated despite themselves. They watched humans debate with an intensity that matched their own council sessions. Ordinary citizens discussed philosophy, history, and political theory with sophistication that impressed even Director Thamos. They genuinely believe every individual has the right to help decide their species' future. He reported to a stunned council assembly. This is not just rhetoric. It is the foundation of their entire governmental system. 3 days before the referendum, Ambassador Chen sent a message to the council. The transmission was brief and carried on all frequencies. To the Galactic Council and all member species, humanity has reached its decision. We will announce the results in 3 days. Regardless of our choice, we want you to know that this process has taught us something important. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Freedom is not something that can be given or taken away by others. It exists whenever people choose to claim it. We hope our example encourages other species to make their own choices about their future. The message ended with coordinates for a neutral location where the council could hear humanity's decision. On the appointed day, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at the meeting point. The human ship Defiance arrived precisely on schedule, accompanied by vessels from the Ithara, the Research Collective, and 6 other species that had declared support for the Sovereign Alliance. Admiral Corthan's massive fleet waited nearby. Weapons powered but not targeted, Ambassador Chen addressed the assembled representatives with calm dignity. The people of Earth have voted, she announced. By a margin of 67%, humanity accepts the Council's offer of Sovereign Alliance status. Relief flooded through the chamber. War had been averted, but Chen was not finished. However, our acceptance comes with conditions that were not part of the original offer. Admiral Corthan's expression darkened. You dare to add conditions to our generous terms? We do, Chen replied without apology. Humanity accepts Sovereign Alliance status only if the Council agrees to extend similar offers to any species that requests them. She gestured to the allied vessels. These 7 species have formally requested renegotiation of their terms. If the Council refuses, humanity will decline Sovereign Alliance status and accept the consequences. The ultimatum was unprecedented. Humanity was using their new status to protect other species' rights. Furthermore, Chen continued, we propose the establishment of a Galactic Reform Commission. Its purpose will be to help any species transition from hierarchical membership to sovereign partnership. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. The commission will be jointly staffed by representatives from both the Traditional Council and the Sovereign Alliance. Its goal will be gradual, voluntary evolution of galactic governance. High Arbitrator Quindal floated in stunned silence. Humanity had not just changed their own situation. They were demanding systematic reform of the entire galactic order. Representative Silara spoke first. This proposal would fundamentally alter the nature of galactic civilization. Yes, Chen agreed. That is exactly what we propose. The debate lasted hours. Traditional Council members argued that such changes would destroy galactic stability. Progressive members argued that such changes would create a stronger, more dynamic civilization. Finally, High Arbitrator Quindal called for a vote. The result was closer than anyone expected. 312 species voted for the reforms, 289 voted against. Dr. Xyland's mechanical voice carried triumph. The measure passes. The Galactic Reform Commission will be established. As the meeting concluded, Zekthara approached Ambassador Chen one final time. Ambassador, you have achieved something remarkable. Humanity has changed the galaxy without firing a shot. Chen smiled. Ambassador Zekthara, we learned something important from this experience. The strongest weapon is not the one that destroys enemies. It is the one that turns enemies into allies. 3 years later,